Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Dr. T.H. Hazaria and today we will talk on diabetes mellitus DM. So diabetes mellitus is a metabolic syndrome which is rapidly increasing throughout the world and also one of the leading cause of death. Alone in India, around 73 million people are affected with diabetes mellitus. Also the prevalence is very high in urban areas and low in rural areas. So we will discuss this topic in two parts and this is part 1. And here we will talk about the introduction, etiology and prevalence, clinical features, and complications of diabetes mellitus. In part 2, we will discuss about the diagnosis and finally management, right? So the reference for this lecture is Harrison's Internal Medicine Textbook 20th edition. So you can refer there also. And before we start, please do subscribe the channel to get all latest updates. Let's talk about introduction. Diabetes mellitus DM describes a group of metabolic disorders that share the common feature of hyperglycemia, in which a person has high blood glucose or blood sugar levels, either because insulin production is inadequate or the body cells do not respond properly to insulin, or might be because of both. As we know that glucose is the major energy source for our body, so whenever we eat our food, there will be increase in blood glucose levels, and in response to that, the beta cells of pancreas will produce and secrete one hormone known as insulin. Since insulin is an anabolic hormone and this will help the body cells in glucose uptake, glycogenesis means formation of glycogen, the storage form of glucose, lipogenesis and protein synthesis while acting on tyrosine kinase receptors. So this is how glycogen, lipids and proteins are stored in liver, kidney, muscles and adipose tissue. Now what if there is low blood glucose levels? In that case, the alpha cells of pancreas will produce one hormone, glucagon. Glucagon is a glucoregulatory peptide hormone that counteracts the action of insulin. So via increasing the hepatic glucose production. So how it will increase the hepatic glucose production? Via the process of glycogenolysis, means breakdown of the stored glycogen back to glucose, and via the process of gluconeogenesis, means formation of glucose from fatty acids and amino acids. This is how there will be increase in glucose levels. So as now we know that pancreas produces insulin according to blood glucose levels. So what happens if there is a problem with the production of insulin? So in that case, glucose in blood is not able to go into the cells for energy requirement. The cells can't meet energy needs and energy is tried to be provided from fat and proteins. Also using fat as an energy source results in excess production of ketone bodies and that result in diabetic ketoacidosis. So we will discuss this in one separate lecture. Also with the usage of protein as an energy source, the patient feels themselves tired and sluggish. Also because of the impaired insulin release, the excess blood glucose is thrown out of the body by kidneys. So patients begin to urinate frequently as known as polyuria, one of the symptoms of diabetes. And as a result of frequent urination, patient feels thirsty and he start to drink a lot as known as polydipsia. As cells are not able to use the available glucose because of the impaired insulin functioning, even in the presence of glucose, patient feel hungry and he start to eat frequently and manifest with polyphagia. Despite frequent eating, as body cells can't use the available glucose, there will be decrease in body weight. So after introduction, we will talk about the etiology and prevalence of diabetes, right? So diabetes mellitus is currently classified on the basis of pathogenic process that leads to hyperglycemia. So generally classified as type 1 and type 2 diabetes mellitus. Around 10% patients are having type 1 diabetes mellitus, also known as insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Around 90% patients are having type 2 diabetes mellitus, also known as non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. So type 1 diabetes mellitus is characterized by the insulin deficiency and is strongly associated to development of diabetic ketoacidosis. The most commonly caused is autoimmune destruction of the pancreatic islet beta cells, also idiopathic in some patients. When we talk about type 2 diabetes mellitus, this is the heterogeneous group of disorders and characterized by the variable degrees of insulin resistance. and impaired insulin secretion and excessive hepatic glucose production, and is strongly associated with the obesity. Apart from type 1 and type 2 diabetes mellitus, the other specific type of diabetes mellitus include diabetes mellitus caused by the genetic defects like maturity onset diabetes of the young, MODY, and the other rare monogenic disorders. Also disease of exocrine pancreas like chronic pancreatitis, cystic fibrosis, and hemochromatosis. And endocrinopathies like acromegaly, Cushing syndrome, glucagonoma, pheochromocytoma, and hyperthyroidism. And drugs like nicotinic acid, glucocorticoids, thiazide diuretics, and protease inhibitors can also cause diabetes. And lastly, pregnancy, gestational diabetes mellitus. This type of diabetes affects females during pregnancy. So most patients can control their diabetes with exercise and diet. But undiagnosed and uncontrolled gestational diabetes can raise the risk of complications during childbirth because baby might be bigger than he or she should be. So after classification of diabetes mellitus, in this slide, we will talk about the normal glucose tolerance and hyperglycemia. So on the basis of plasma glucose and HbA1c, how we classify one individual normal, pre-diabetic and diabetic. So generally we consider one individual normal or with normal glucose tolerance when he is having fasting plasma glucose of 100 mg per deciliter, 2 hour postprandial plasma glucose of 140 mg per deciliter, and HbA1c of less than 5.6%. HbA1c which tells us about the average glucose level past 2 to 3 months. Okay, and when we talk about the pre-diabetic, so generally one individual is having fasting plasma glucose of 100 to 125 mg per deciliter, 2 hour postprandial plasma glucose of 140 to 199 mg per deciliter, and HbA1c of 5.7 to 6.4%. Means this patient is having impaired fasting glucose or impaired glucose tolerance, right? When we talk about diabetic, means one individual having fasting plasma glucose of 126 mg per deciliter, 2 hour postprandial plasma glucose of 200 mg per deciliter, and HbA1c of more than and equal to 6.5%. In this slide, we will talk about the risk factors for type 1 diabetes mellitus. So they generally include autoimmune disease, mean one autoimmune reaction that attacks the body itself and destroys the pancreatic beta cells which produces and secretes insulin. Family history. Individuals with parent or sibling with diabetes mellitus are always at increased risk for developing diabetes. Also genetic factors. Presence of certain genes also increase the risk for developing diabetes in one individual. Age. Commonly in younger adults and children, like typically younger than 14 years of age. Type 1 diabetes might occur at any age, although developing type 1 diabetes later in life is rare. After type 1 diabetes mellitus, in this slide, we will talk about the risk factors for type 2 diabetes mellitus. So generally include one family history of diabetes, like parent or sibling with type 2 diabetes mellitus, overweight or obese, like one person with BMI of 25 or more kg per meter square, or when we talk about Asian Americans, then of course BMI of 23 and more per kg meter square. Also physical inactivity, some race or ethnicity like African American, Latino, Native American, Asian American, and Pacific Islanders. They are at increased risk of type 2 diabetes mellitus. Previously identified as with impaired fasting glucose, impaired glucose tolerance, or a HbA1c of 5.7 to 6.4%. History of gestational diabetes mellitus. Hypertension, when blood pressure is more than or equal to 140 by 90 mm of mercury, with HDL cholesterol level of less than 35 mg per deciliter, and triglyceride levels of more than 25 mg per deciliter. Polycystic ovary syndrome or acanthosis nigricans as characterized with insulin resistance, and history of cardiovascular disease. So especially when we talk about the prevalence of diabetes, then the worldwide prevalence of diabetes mellitus is increasing rapidly. Type 2 diabetes mellitus frequency in particular is rising in parallel with the epidemic of obesity. Also in the past 2 decades, there is tenfold increase in worldwide prevalence of diabetes mellitus. In United States, the adult prevalence of diabetes mellitus ranges from 7 to 11% of the population. Also, a significant portion of the persons with diabetes mellitus are undiagnosed. That's the major issue. Please take a note that diabetes mellitus is consistently a leading cause of death worldwide. So after introduction, etiology and prevalence of diabetes mellitus, now we will talk about the clinical features of diabetes mellitus. So the common presenting symptoms of diabetes are like weight loss because body is unable to use the available glucose, polyuria, frequent urination, polydipsia, frequent and excess thirst, blurred vision, fatigue and weakness, frequent infections, poor wound healing, and lastly paresthesia means pins and needle sensation. In early type 2 diabetes mellitus, symptoms may be more subtle and consistent with fatigue, poor wound healing, and paresthesia. The lack of symptoms is the main reason for the delayed diagnosis of type 2 diabetes mellitus. Also, a complete medical history should be obtained with a special emphasis on change in weight, exercise, smoking, alcohol use, and family history of cardiovascular disorders. So after clinical features of diabetes, now we will talk about the complications of diabetes. So first we will talk about the acute complications that may be seen on the presentation. So generally include diabetic ketoacidosis, that is DKA, and common with type 1 diabetes mellitus, hyperglycemic hyperosmolar state, which is common with type 2 diabetes mellitus. In chronic complications of diabetes mellitus, first we will talk about the ophthalmologic complications. So generally one patient may manifest with non-proliferative or proliferative diabetic retinopathy, macular edema, rubeosis, and glaucoma and cataract. When we talk about GI complications, then fatty liver, gastroparesis, diarrhea and constipation are common in diabetic patient. In renal complications, generally patient manifest with proteinuria, end-stage renal disease, that is ESRD, and type 4 renal tubular acidosis. When we talk about the neurological complications, then patient manifest generally with distal symmetric polyneuropathy, polyradiculopathy and mononeuropathy, and lastly autonomic neuropathy. In cardiovascular complications in diabetic patient, coronary artery disease CAD, congestive heart failure CHF, peripheral vascular disease PVD, and stroke are very common. When we talk about the lower extremity complications, if mother is having gestational diabetes, then child may have foot deformity like hemato, clato, and Charcot foot. Also ulceration and amputation is very common. In dermatology complications, infections, acanthosis nigricans, poor healing, ulcers and gangrene are very common in diabetic patient. In genitourinary complications like cystopathy, erectile dysfunction in male, female sexual dysfunction, and vaginal candidiasis mean fungal infection of vagina, and lastly dental complications mean periodontal disease is very common in diabetic patients. So thank you so much for watching. We're done with part 1, and in part 2 we will talk about the diagnosis and treatment of diabetes mellitus. So please don't forget to subscribe the channel for latest updates. Stay safe. Thank you.